Ask an Expert every weekday at this time on KCBS. We're giving you direct access to top experts in various fields. And today, we are recognizing Recycle Awareness Week by exploring the state of sustainable fashion. While U.S. brands take advantage of the Trump administration's rolling back of environmental protections, generational divides are also creating new norms as Gen Z embraces secondhand shopping and thrift stores. To answer all of our questions, we are joined live on the KCBS Ring Central Newsline by sustainable fashion expert and advocate Lexy Silverstein. Thank you so much for being with us this morning.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. I just had a peek at your Instagram. You're holding a big sign, and one of the first pictures it says, "Say no to fast fashion." What does that sign mean? Why is that important to you?
Yeah, well, I think so much of our fashion industry is not talked about. I think we see the fashion industry as the glitz and glam and what makes you, feel good about yourself, and that's such a big portion of it. But there is a kind of not so well-known, not as talked about back end to the fashion industry that fashion is actually very unsustainable, and it's not always ethical. And I think that one of the biggest parts of this industry right now is the fast fashion industry. And so these are companies that really utilize these micro trends. So things that are on trend for 1 second, they release a ton of clothing in these trends, and then they immediately, get thrown out and they're on to the next trend. And fast fashion really promotes this kind of idea of a linear shopping model. So you buy something and then you wear it once and then you throw it out. And it really promotes this need of always needing new things and always needing to be on trend. And I think that what I really care about and what I really try to talk about and educate people on is how we can care for the fashion industry but be more sustainable.
So let's name some names here of these fashion where they're on trend and it's really fast, and also how the de minimis reform is going to impact some retail habits.
Yeah, well, naming names. Shein is one of our biggest, I think, well-known fast fashion companies in the industry today. And so they are an example of, they release anywhere from 2,000 to 10,000 individual styles per day. I cannot wrap my head around how many clothes that is. The thing is that, we have enough clothes right now to dress the next 6 generations of people. And not only are we not slowing down and taking care of our clothes and practicing these more sustainable things, but we're really speeding this up, and we're producing all of these clothes. So Shein is one of the most well-known ones. They're definitely the biggest offender when it comes to this. But there are so many other brands as well that are, in our mall that are just unsustainable and focus on this fast fashion model. And so I think that there is, there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. I always, love to talk about some things that are happening, because I think in this topic of environmental and the fashion industry, it can seem very doom and gloom, but there is real progress happening, and we are, having legislation change. And France actually is really leading that. They recently just passed a ban where they are banning anything that kind of, could be considered fast fashion. They're banning the deconstruction of unsold goods. They're requiring eco scores on garments. They're taxing ultra-fast fashion platforms and enforcing extended producer responsibility so that brands must account for textile waste. So while France is really leading this cause, I want the United States to be right behind them. I want them to start releasing these bans as well. And I think that hopefully the more we talk about things like this, and the more that we, as consumers, talk to and speak out about these things, we can really make a difference with it.
Now, even that fast fashion is probably going to be getting more expensive here in the United States, given the recent changes. Can you talk about the impact of that?
Yeah, so, I will say we have tariffs, and while there are many, not great things with tariffs, the de minimis rule allowed fast fashion brands to get away with shipping ultra cheap clothes from China to the U.S. without paying import duties. So any package worth under $800 could slip through customs tax-free. But in May of 2025, the U.S. hit low-value imports from China with tariffs of up to 120% or $100 flat per package. So later the tariff drops to 54%, but the $100 flat fee kind of stayed the same. So I think that while a lot of these companies have been able to kind of get away with charging very cheap, not even a full dollar sometimes for these clothes, the one, kind of light at the end of the tunnel again is these tariffs where, these fast fashion brands might actually not be able to get away with these things. And I think that there are a lot of things with fast fashion where it's like, if you just, think about it for a second, if you do a little bit of math, if someone is selling something for $1, as a company, you have to make some sort of money. But if you're selling something for $1 or $5 or however cheap, how much money are you really making? And someone somewhere is not getting paid in order for that item to be $5. So I think if we really just think about it for a second, it doesn't sound like like the math is mathing. And so I think that that's maybe one good thing when it comes to these tariffs is that these fast fashion companies aren't going to keep getting away with this.
That's such a great ethical reminder. Lexy, she is a sustainable fashion expert and advocate who was on the cover of Vogue Business. Tell us about that photo shoot. What was going on there?
I went to a fashion institute in downtown Los Angeles, and as someone who's always loved and cared about sustainability, we actually had a partnership with Shein. And it was really shocking because my alma mater is what really opened my eyes to sustainable fashion. When I was touring the school about 6 years ago, they had this room that was all about sustainable textiles, and they had cork and pineapple leather and 3D printed clothes. And I was like, what is sustainability? I've never heard of this in terms of the fashion industry. So I did some research, I learned a lot, and I completely changed everything I was doing into becoming more sustainable. So 5 years later, when they partnered with Shein, I was very shocked, and I actually created a petition. So the partnership was that 10 students or a group of students got the opportunity to create a collection with Shein's designer incubator program called Shein X, and then they also got some money as well, which is such an incredible opportunity, especially for a young designer in the fashion industry. And so everything about it was amazing, great. I'm so supportive of it. Only thing is Shein.
Right.
I was like, can we pretty much do this with any other companies? So I ended up starting a petition that kind of blew up over the next few weeks. And I was able to talk to my school. The school actually has since got bought by Arizona State University and has dissolved as an institution. But we were able to make some noise and really make a difference before that happened, which always just goes to show that when you raise your voice and you care about something, it's okay to make a little bit of noise because change can really come from it.
Oh, well, good for you. That's great. Are you looking at any laws right now that are going to make fashion cleanup better, if you will?
Yeah. Again, there are so many, like France is really, really leading the way with that. I think there are also, just in general, some organizations and things that work in order to care about these fair wages and safe working conditions. To name a few, the Fair Wear Foundation is a nonprofit that partners directly with brands, factories, and unions to improve labor conditions. The Ethical Trading Initiative is an alliance of companies, trade unions, and NGOs. So members have to commit to the ETI base code, which is grounded in International Labor Organization conventions, and this covers essentially essentials like no child labor, no forced labor, fair pay, and safe working conditions. And then SA 8000 is a globally recognized certification for social accountability. It applies across industries, not just fashion, and sets rigorous standards on things like health and safety, along with working hours and freedom of association and fair treatment. So these are some great organizations. I'm a part of an amazing organization called Remake. They are a woman-founded, woman-owned, woman-everything organization that is constantly fighting for legislation change. They do so many other things too. You can join as an ambassador, and they have hubs all around the U.S., but also beyond. And they also recently did a sustainable catwalk for Fashion Week, which I think is amazing because during Fashion Week, when we see so many, designer brands and unsustainable brands, it's great to have and make some noise within that. So there are so many things happening against France. Again, France is leading with bold regulation, and we hope to be, right behind that.
So when you buy clothes, do you buy anything new, or do you buy good pieces and you wear them for a long time and then thrift as well? How do you approach your wardrobe?
Yeah, my wardrobe is a little bit of everything. I think that sustainability, I always say that sustainability in the fashion industry is quite the umbrella term. It can mean so many different things. So for me, I'm a big thrifter. That's just something that I personally love to do. I so completely understand that is not everybody's calling necessarily. I love to spend hours on end in a thrift store. And so I thrift. I think thrifting is a great way of extending the life cycle of a garment. If you don't want to physically go into a thrift store, there are so many secondhand resale apps nowadays like Depop, eBay, Poshmark. You can rent. Renting is a great thing to do when you have like a special occasion and you know that you're only going to wear, this dress or this whatever once. Renting, there are sites like Newly, Rent the Runway, and one of my favorites as of recent is an app called Pickle, and it's for when you're in a pickle, and you can rent directly from people's closets, whether in your area or you can have it shipped to you. And so I think renting is a great thing that we're talking a lot more about, and there's a lot more sites out there, but not something that necessarily everyone thinks to do immediately. I think whether sustainability can be re-wearing things over and over and over again. I love to ask myself the questions of before I buy something, like how many times am I going to wear this? Where am I going to wear it to? What am I going to wear it with? And just really asking yourself these questions can figure out if you're buying something because it's on trend, because you want it because everyone else has it, or if you're buying it because you really love it and it's something that's going to stay in your closet forever. Something else, just repairing. I think that we've lost this act of really like caring for our clothes and taking care of our clothes. And in school, I took a home ec class. I had to learn how to learn very basic sewing skills, but those basic sewing skills have really saved me when a button has popped off, and so I don't get rid of it because I just sew the button back on, or a hole in my clothes, or taking things to a cobbler. This has been my favorite thing to do lately. A cobbler is a shoe repair person, if people don't know that, and it's so easy to find local to you. I have so many vintage shoes that I have just worn down, like are actually crumbling, and I take them to a cobbler and I extend their life cycle, and now I can wear them and, go out and dance in them and probably eventually wear them down again and take them to a cobbler again. And so I think there's so many things that we can do. Yes, not buying at all is obviously, or just re-wearing what you already have is obviously like one of the most sustainable things that you can do. And so while I encourage you before you buy something new to think like, can I borrow this from a friend? Is there a way to rent it? Can I get it secondhand? Then there is, of course, always the option of buying something new from a sustainable company. And I think when things with come to that, yes, oftentimes sustainable fashion can be more expensive when you're buying it from a sustainable company. I think that is just about having a mindset shift. So instead of buying one $8 t-shirt from a fast fashion site, and then since you bought it for $8, once you stained it or got a hole in it, you're like, well, I don't really care. I bought it for $8. I'll just throw it out and buy a new $8 one. Instead of doing that, buying the white t-shirt from a sustainable company for maybe, yes, $58, $60, $80, however much money. And yes, while that might be more expensive, you know it's going to be made well. You know it's going to be made out of a fabric that is good for you, that when you wash it, it's not going to fall apart after one wash. And so I think when you do buy something new, buy it from a sustainable company and just have the mindset of, I'm going to keep this forever and I'm going to take care of it.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for being with us. So many eye-opening things to think about. Got to check out that pickle. That should be interesting. We really appreciate you being with us this morning. Lexy Silverstein. She is a sustainable fashion expert and advocate. This is related to Recycle Awareness Week. We got a lot of things to think about. So thank you for that. If you have a question, you can listen to this entire interview and past Ask an Experts on the Odyssey app.